Hey everybody, I know you're really waiting around for the cocktail party to start, but in the meantime you can learn a little bit more about OCP and what you didn't know before, or how to get involved and what you need to do. So I call this OCP 101 because the first step to participating in our community is getting involved. So I'm Amber Grainer. I'm the Open Compute Community Manager, and I've been doing this now for a year and a half here. Before that, I was at Lenaro. They have a booth around the corner over here. I was their community manager. And before that, I was involved in the Ubuntu community. You may have read, if you read the 6th and 7th editions of the official Ubuntu book, then you notice that my name is one of the co-authors there. So I've been doing open source for a while and architecting this community after the best practices of communities that work and removing practices that didn't work. So we hope that we've taken the best of all these open source foundations and communities and made it into a really amazing community for OCP. So why open source? What does that mean? What does it really mean to do hardware in an open source way? We really want to embrace the principles and philosophies around open source software into the open source hardware space. So it means that open exchange, participation, the rapid prototyping, which is really important on the hardware side of things, the meritocracy, and the community. So when you're in an open source environment, an open source community, you get so much more than the hardware or software, the hardware that you're installing software on. You get much more than that. You get a community around it. It's not just a cold, inanimate object that you're holding in your hand or racking and stacking in a data center. When you're using open compute hardware, you have a community around that hardware. So teamwork. I can't do it alone, and nor can the foundation do it alone. So Henry Ford said, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is a process, and working together is a success. We are only successful because you are working together with us. You are collaborating with us. And you know, if that's the definition of success, look around today. You heard the keynotes, you saw the contributions coming in. That is a success. We're doing this together. None of us can do it by ourselves. So the structure of the foundation. Frank talked this morning that there are 5 employees. The 5 employees that we have are located in green here. Actually, there's 6 on here, but Will is our part-time guy. So we have Corey Bell, who's our executive, our CEO. We have me as the community manager. Cole Crawford, as you heard, used to be our executive director, but now is moving on to other things to do. He's our OCP evangelist right now. Steve Helvey, who's our VP of channel development. And Stephanie Loiza, who's our events manager. If you see Stephanie running around here at the cocktail party, please tell her thank you. You would not be having this experience here without Stephanie. Stephanie is the one that drives all of this. She's working hard behind the scenes. She's not out here in the audience today because she's over there working on this event for tomorrow. So what you see in green is the employees of the foundation. So if we look at we have our board. We have 7 board members. I'll let you take a moment to look at those. I'm not going to read the slide to you. Those are volunteers. You see our incubation committee. Our incubation committee is who decides how the specifications that come into the community, they decide whether they get accepted or not. And then we have our project leads. All of the folks in the gray boxes are volunteers. Remember I said teamwork? This is the team. This is the team that makes it happen, that reaches out to you all sitting there. It's a pretty impressive team, and I can't thank them enough. Here's a little bit more about our Open Compute board. Frank Frykowski, Andy Bexelsheim, Jason Taylor, Jason Waxman, Don Duet, Bill Lang, and Mark Ronig. Talk about thought leadership. You know, I looked at Andy's picture and I kept trying to figure out, do I put him co-leader or co-founder of what? How many organizations can I fit in that box? You know? And then I had you know, I settled on industry leader, but he's really an industry guru. And the thought leadership that he and all the others on our board provide make it possible to get you involved in our community. The Open Compute team. So there's all the faces of us. You've seen Will running around. If you were in the engineering workshops, you saw him setting up all the hangouts on air. Here's our incubation committee. So these two positions right here, our chair and vice chair, are the only two positions that are appointed by the board in the whole organization. Everything else in our community, all of our volunteer leaders are elected. Our incubation committee and our project leads are elected by the community. We are not a pay-to-play model. You can't buy a board seat, you can't buy an IC seat, you can't buy a project lead seat. And here's how our IC and our project lead teams line up. We have certification, data center, hardware management, HPC, networking, open rack, server, storage, and telcos. Our telco is not a top-level project, it's a working group right now. But with each project that we have a project lead and a representative on the IC. Because you don't want somebody deciding on your contribution who's not familiar with that vertical of the technology. So you can see how it all lines up. Who's who? We have Bob Ogre on the server with Mark Shaw and John Stewie. Qilong Wang with E-Tree. E-Tree is our lab in Taiwan. Hardware management. I'm not going to read all of them, but like we have ARM and we have the HPC group lining up. Matt Corgers with Facebook. Matt used to be the project lead for the Open Rack group. Now he's the IC representative, and now we have two other co-leads on there. So as you can see, our project leads and our IC mirror one another. So whatever projects we have a seat on the IC. As our projects grow, our IC will grow, and that will be elected by the community. So right now, with the telco group, let me use that as an example. And here you can see the rest of our groups. But if you were in the engineering workshops yesterday, then you noticed we had a telco working group session. There is no leader for that right now. We have Bill Carter, who's graciously kind of leading it as we set it up, but there's no elected leader. What's going to happen after the summit and what's going to come out of summit is everybody who participated is going to decide, let me stand over here, they're going to get together and they're going to tell me who they want to nominate, and then we're going to hold an election to elect someone to lead the telco working group. So I don't appoint them, the board doesn't appoint them, Corey doesn't appoint them. You and the community decide who is going to lead our projects. So again, here's the projects that we govern. Server, storage, data center design, open rack, networking, hardware management, certification, and HPC. Those are our top level projects. Things like ONI or Open Network Linux fall under networking, so they're a subgroup under networking. What about before I go to that, and feel free to ask me questions, but I may get to it along the way. It's only a 30-minute presentation, but is any outstanding questions, or maybe I'll wait to the end. Normally I like to interact along the way, but the last slide? I'm sorry? Big data. Well, we were trying to figure out what to name HPC. So. Yep. We're working on that level. We just don't have a top level project for that right now. That's coming. It's just not. We don't have it right now. So let me talk about our membership. So remember I said we're not a pay-to-play model? So none of our stuff do you have to be a member to access. You can join our mailing list, you can join the meetings, you can come to our events, you can do all of those things without being a member. We're open, and we want everything. We want the thought leadership, the design aspect, everything that goes into our community to be able to be accessed without you having to pay to play in our community. So we have our executive level members. Our executive level members are our board level. So all of our executive members sit on the board. We have our tiered membership, and I'm going to go through tiered membership in just a moment. And we have our individual members. So we allow for individual members who maybe your organization isn't ready to get involved, but you want to get involved, sign up as an individual member. Tiered membership is for the corporate organizations, you know, that want to join. And then, like I said, our executives sit on our board. So I had somebody ask me one time, what's the difference between marketing and community? Marketing builds the brand. Community empowers people. So when I stand up here and I say I'm the community manager, I'm not here to just talk about building up the OCP brand. Do I protect the brand? Yes. But it's not about that. It's not a marketing machine. The community is not marketing. I'm here to empower you. Empower the community to get involved and innovate on top of the designs that have already been contributed, or to contribute more designs. So, and again, we can't do it without our members. We can't do it without you that are sitting out there, that are attending this event and are getting involved in all of our projects. That's how we're going to grow. For me to figure out what lane, or help you figure out what lane, what vertical you want to be in, and how to get involved. Because I want to see everybody involved. Whatever your skill level is, or lack of skill in some cases, people say, I don't know about this. Tell me what you like to do. We will find you something to do. There's this great thing, it's called the Grand Essentials. The Grand Essentials say that if you give someone something to love, if you give someone something to hope for, and you give someone something to do, they're going to be happy. The same thing about a successful community. So if you love this space, if you're passionate about open hardware and what that means, and you're hoping in a better future and a better way of doing things in the data center space and hardware, and you have something to do, then the community is going to be successful. How many times have you joined a community that had nothing for you to do, and you got bored and you left that community? I don't want anybody getting bored and leaving our community. If you can't find something to do, my email address is all over the place. I will find you something to do. I can volunteer anybody all day long. So I want you to participate in our community. How do you interact in the community? You can get on our mailing list, you can get on our wiki pages, you can take a look at the blog, you can take IRC channels, we have online meetings, in-person meetings, in-person events, we have our social media stuff. There are many ways in which we broadcast information out, and we gather feedback, and we communicate what we need to do, where we're going, how we're doing it. Our main source of communication with our community is our mailing list. We can't have personal, like in-person meetups in the fashion that it needs to be without creating little cliques, right? I don't want to create cliques. I don't want to create pockets of exclusion. I want this community to be inclusive. And so the first thing that we do is we post everything on our mailing list. All the information that you need about a group and what they're doing and where to find stuff can be put on the mailing list, and we'll communicate that out. We also put information on our blog, and we also put it across our social media channels. So I try to communicate a whole bunch of different ways. But our wiki pages, and we're working on relaunching those, by the way. Our wiki pages is like our project leads filing cabinets. Think of that as the technical filing cabinet for each of the projects. Our tiered membership piece. So ways to reach our OCP corporate membership or tiered membership: time, money, and IP. So time, talent, and treasure. That combination is going to get you to each of the tiered membership levels. So the first member level is our community level, and it's free. You don't have to give 2,080 hours, and you don't have to give IP. all you have to do to become a corporate community level member is sign the membership agreement. That's it. Let me go back for a second. What you can do at that community level is you can vote on for the project leads. So if you're not a member, you can't vote. So you got to have some skin in the game. You've got to be building merit and doing those type of things. So we want you to participate in the community. And so in order to do that, you've got to be a member to vote. And that's only in the project lead elections, not in the IC elections. So silver membership. Silver membership, this is the only level where you can only get to it by giving us money. And so it's $60K if you're not a startup. If you're a startup, it's $10K. And how do we define startup? Startup we define as an organization that's less than 3 years old and under $1 million in revenue per year. So that's a startup foundation. And so they only have to pay $10K for silver membership. And what that gives is use of this logo on your website, this logo on your collateral material. No organization should be using the Open Compute logo. They can only use the logos that go along with their level of tiered membership. So we have this. So at this level, you can be a project lead or an IC lead. You can vote in both elections. You get 10% off your summit sponsorships, 10% off our training that will be rolling out between now and 2016. I say this is my fun level because there's so many options. Just like when you go to a location, there's many ways you can get to those locations. You know, trains, planes, automobiles, you can walk, you can ride, whatever. We have many ways to get the gold level membership. At gold level, you get to use this logo. Again, you can be nominated for the project and IC leads. You can vote in those elections. 15% off Summit. 15% off Summit training. $50K for members to become a solution provider. At gold, you're eligible to become a solution provider. Silver and community level members are not eligible to become a solution provider. And 15% off our OCP certification program. The ways to get there is you can pay us $100K, but what I'd rather see is merit. I'd rather see somebody give the time and the IP. You can do it that way. No money, just 3,120 hours. That's really 1.5 people per year. Or you can give me 2,080 hours and $50K and 1 IP contribution a year. So if you want to combine time, talent, and treasure and do it all like this, you can. No money, 1.5 people working on a vertical, and two IP contributions. Or you can just give money. Whatever's easiest for your organization, right? So that's 3 ways to get the gold membership. Platinum. Platinum is our highest brand that we'll give the community. And that requires a little bit of money, time, and IP. You cannot give just money to get to platinum. Platinum requires merit. Platinum requires that you have a commitment to the community and to the foundation. Because a lot of times people can just write the check and never get involved, right? We want you to be involved. And if you'll notice, it costs the least. Because the more merit that you have, the more time, the more IP that you've given, the less it's going to cost you. Because that means you're committed. You're giving us thought leadership, and we're getting back, and we want to make it a win-win. So if you noticed, like at Platinum, which is our highest, that's the cheapest, right? And then if you give time and intellectual property, you give $50K for gold. So it goes up just a little bit. Silver goes up to $60K. So the less time and IP you have, the more it costs you. Merit is important. So those are those benefits. Now let me talk a little bit about how we calculate time, because most people see time and they cringe. That's a lot of hours. Well, every event, every OCP event that you attend, it is for every person, it's 8 hours per person times a travel multiplier for that event. So you're going to get more than 8 hours a day credited toward your organization for coming to an OCP event. If it's an industry event and you let me know at least 2 weeks in advance that you're going, same formula, but it's 4 hours per event that you go to. Because I know that you're not going to represent just OCP at those industry events. You're going to be representing your organizations too. But I'm going to give you credit for talking about OCP at those events. So we're going to give you credit for industry events. The other thing that we do is every email that you send to our mailing list, I give you time. I give you 30 minutes per email that you send to our mailing list. And I painstakingly calculate those every month because mailman is so efficient. And I can't scrape information from it. So we have that. We have hours for if you use our reciprocal license, which means you officially become an upstream for that contribution. Think of GPL v2, but for hardware. If you use the OCP HL reciprocal license, we give you 500 hours because we know that now people are going to be have to give back what they innovate on top of. So you then become the upstream of that, and so that's going to be a little bit more time. We want people using the same kind of concepts that are around software about having to give back. We want people in our community to do that. We have our OCP HL permissive license, which we don't give extra time for because basically you license it and you throw it over the wall and you don't care what people do with it. But the reciprocal license means they have to give back. So we give extra time for that. Now, I'm not going to say that that's the only ways that we give time credit. If an organization wants to tell me they're going to commit 2 people, 3 people, whatever, to working on OCP, then we'll figure out, I'll have you put that in writing and we'll figure out what they're going to be working on, and we'll check up on that. Like maybe every couple of months I'll come in and take a look at what they're doing and check up on it and verify that you just didn't say, oh, I'm going to give, 2 people, I'm going to commit 1.5 people to this project per year, and you don't ever do anything. So we're going to check up on that. So that's another way to get to that time. And I'm also looking for more creative solutions to give time to. This is not set in stone. We're always building on top of it because you all have amazing ideas about how we can do this. So, specs and designs. How many of you guys are really interested in how you can submit a specification? Anybody here looking at submitting designs, hardware over the next year? No? I'm going to tell you how it's done anyway. So you or your organization decide that you want to contribute a specification. The first thing I'm going to ask, are you a member? No? Then you've got to be a member in order to submit a spec. So, are you a member? Is your organization or are you a member? If the answer is yes, the next thing I'm going to ask, did you sign the contributor license agreement? That's the inbound license. That's assigning it to us. So yes. Then you have to pick an outbound license. You can pick the OWF license. You can pick the OCP HL, either passive or a reciprocal license. And if it's software that you're contributing, any OSI approved open source license. So we're not going to dictate to you what license you have to license your software under. We just want it to be an open source license. So then you've got to pick that license. The next thing that is going to happen is, have you talked to the project lead about your contribution? If you try to go straight to the IC and skip the project lead, the IC is going to kick it back. If you know someone on the incubation committee and you say, I'm just going to send them my contribution, the IC chairperson is going to say, hey, Amber, are those people members? And I'm going to go, no. So then they're going to kick it back to me to make sure they become members. So anybody that you see making a contribution is a member. So then what's going to happen is the IC is going to review the contribution. They're going to ACK or NAC it. But they won't NAC it without giving you feedback and tell you what to change. And the IC meets every 6 weeks. So by the time you present your specification, they give you feedback. You've got 6 weeks to make those changes and implement them. and then they'll vote on it. So typically from the time you submit it, unless something is really, a huge change, if something needs to be done, typically that can be done in 6 weeks, and you have your answer in 6 weeks. And then it goes out. We put it on the wiki pages, link to it on the website, and then the whole world knows about it. We're working to blog about every contribution. We haven't gotten there yet. As you can see, our staff is pretty lean, so getting to that piece of it, we're working on. But that's how you submit a spec. It's pretty simple when you think about it. Become a member, sign the CLA, work with the project leads. Work with the project leads to get it in the right format and make sure it's a good contribution. Then it goes on to the IC. The IC takes a look at it, and then they say, hey, Amber, we approve this. Now, like Frank mentioned this morning, there's 2 new questions that the IC will always ask you. They will ask you, who is adopting it? Who's manufacturing it? Because we don't want somebody to submit a spec, and it's not even being manufactured yet. It's just an idea. We want to make sure it's real. And we want to make sure there's a demand for it. Because just to contribute technology for the sake of contributing technology doesn't do anybody good. So we want to make sure you can put your hands on it. And if you want to go bend metal, that you're able to do that. So as I mentioned, our tools, here's our website, our wiki, our IRC channels, our mailing list. We use OwnCloud internally to host larger files. I share a lot of larger files out. We use Fuse and then Etherpad. So all of these links are found on the OCP Getting Involved page. Our membership agreements are found on the OCP Getting Involved page. The contributor license agreement is on the Getting Involved page. All the links to the wiki, to the website, to our mailing list, everything is on that page. That is where I've kind of consolidated that list. Now, are there any questions? I guess we need a mic over here. So, any questions from anybody? Did I do that good of a job explaining it? This is great. No questions? First time ever. Yeah. Can we get the mic? So,
Is the acronym OCP trademarked or copyrighted?
I'm sorry?
Is the acronym or OCP, those 3 letters, is that trademarked or copyrighted?
It is.
Okay.
So, but we're as you can see, everybody kind of uses it. So it's the logo that you can't use.
Okay, so what are the rules for using the OCP letters? Are there rules for that?
Not at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
That's not to say in the future there won't be, but not at this moment. Because you see people writing about OCP inspired gear, OCP ready gear. What they can't say is that it's certified if it's not. They can't put the logo, on their page or on the equipment. Members have to use, and I hope I'm not going to, there's a few around that maybe are using the logo that we haven't switched it out yet. But they're not supposed to use that OCP logo without expressed written permission from the foundation. You can use the logo that goes with your level of tiered membership. If you're a community member, let's go back here for a second. Let's go. So if you're a community member, you're using that logo. If you're a silver member, you're using this logo. Gold. So they're all variations of the same logo. They're just used a little bit differently. And then platinum. So those are, and if you're a solution provider, you can use either if you're a gold level member and you're a solution provider, you can use the gold level member logo and the solution provider logo. If you're platinum, you can use the platinum level member logo and the solution provider logo. But you can't use the Open Compute logo. Oops. So any other questions? Over here.
My understanding to get certified is that you have to show that you meet the interface specs and provide manufacturing drawings. Is that correct?
Well, for certification, actually what has to happen is you have to submit your hardware to one of our labs, and then it has to go through that process. So depending on what you're submitting, like the certification testing for ONI is a different certification testing for the server, which is different from the storage, right? It's all different tests and stuff. So no, not every spec has the mechanicals and stuff like that. It all depends on how it's licensed and which license that you decided that your outbound license that you picked. So the OCP HLs require all of that, require full production files, like all the production files. Mm-hmm. But if someone uses the OWF license, it doesn't require as much of that supporting documentation. So I'm not a fan of using the other license because I want all the production files, but we're not there yet. But you have to follow the process for whichever contribution you're having go through the lab.
Yeah, right now you're trying to get more submissions, obviously, from the meeting. But the point probably will come where you have enough submissions and you have to throttle back. What's the process for that?
I don't think we'll ever throttle back. We'll just add more resources to deal with it. We don't want to throttle back on submissions because here's what we're going to get to. The point we're going to get to with submissions is that if you don't have a test spec with your submission, we'll say, okay, we'll conditionally accept this with the understanding that a test spec will be written by this date. So we're not gonna like throttle back on submissions.
I mean, you could get a lot of submissions that duplicate.
That's what the project lead and the IC does. They find out if it's a good submission and they decide, yes, this is something that needs to go forward, or no, this isn't for us at this time.
Okay.
Yep.
So you do have a process.
Does that make sense? Yep. Any other questions? How am I on time? I don't even know. Like what? Is it? Yep, Larry.
Thanks. Could you go back to one of the graphics?
Say when.
Okay. Stop.
Okay.
Because my question actually, I get the clock, and in other graphics it has a dollar sign in the circle, the gear there. As a word and graphics person and not a tech person,
I can't hear you really well.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just repeat what I was saying before. You have a clock that's for contributing time, I'm sure. Okay, in that particular gear in the upper right.
Right.
The big gear has got a certain.
Oh wait, hold on.
That's okay.
I want to go back to this one so you can. See
yeah, okay, that's fine because it's got the dollar sign for that's contributing money. Mm-hmm. Now you have what looks like a inverted copyright.
Copy left.
The copy left symbol, right?
Get it?
I get it. Yeah, and that's for community. I was just going to ask, and you just answered my question about copyleft, if that was the reason that you chose that. So thank you.
Yep. I kind of like the graphic because if you look right here, this gear right here, these arrows, it's the biggest one. That is merit right there. That's IP. So that one is the biggest because while we like time and we want to keep our lights on and keep the foundation running and have events like this, we want people to really get involved and be part of the community. So, and I believe this gentleman over here had a question. No? Okay. Any other questions? No? Yes? No? With that, I will say thank you. And if you have any questions about getting involved in the community and getting, participating in any area of Open Compute, feel free to let me know. Send me an email. It's amber@opencompute.org. Happy to either meet with you all tomorrow, pull me aside if you see me in the hallway, or even later tonight and ask questions that are specific to your organization and your needs. We'll figure out how to find you a lane to participate in our community. So thank you so much.